October 29, Russian forces launched a surprise offensive in the east with motorcycles troops. They pushed about 6 miles into Ukrainian lines toward Dobropilya, a small war-torn village previously best known for its rich coal deposits. Though fighting there is ongoing, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky today called the battle for Dobropilya a success. Once Ukraine's military leaders realized the depth of the Russian breakthrough, the deepest in more than a year, they rushed some of the country's best units to stop it. One of those was the 1st Corps Azov of the National Guard of Ukraine, which was responsible for one sector in that counterattack. In an hour-long exclusive conversation with TWZ on Wednesday, Lieutenant Colonel Arsen Lemko-Dmitrik, the unit's chief of staff, gave us a breakdown of how Ukraine was able to turn the tide with Troop Sniper. He also talked about the challenges ahead, given the fluid nature of the battlefield. In October of this year, it was one of the hottest points of the whole front line. The enemy broke our first defense line and entered the tactical positions of our army. The enemy used motorcycles troops. Navy infantry and the 8th Russian Army joined the 51st Russian Army to help them with that assault mission. There were more or less 100,000 personnel from the Russian Army. First of all, our reconnaissance worked really well. Use sniper troops and drones FPV. Because of our reconnaissance, we received the enemy's plans for the assault. Also, several Ukrainian forces combined together to stabilize this front. There were more than 100 commanders from our side. At the beginning of October, we built a joint command point. All the units that took part in this operation to stop the enemy assault joined that command point. We implemented the Corps system, and the Corps are responsible for a specific zone. But to support us, the commander of assault forces joined our command point. Forces drone FPV and sniper troops. This command center was built on an Azov base. However, different commanders brought their own unique knowledge. You cannot say that this one brought us the main success. It's a common success. We don't see that the enemy is using tanks really often. Instead, they are using armored vehicles and small groups of assault troops who go just by foot or motorcycle. The enemy uses tanks and armored vehicles in order to make a hole in Ukrainian defense lines. After they make this hole, they throw infantry on regular vehicles or motorcycles. So their tactic is that first they advance with a tank, and this is a special tank. It has radio-electronic warfare and some special anti-mine equipment. After the tank, they have armored vehicles for infantrymen. Usually, before the tank, they can send several motorcycles to clear the road of mines. We call this a tank fist. So when this tank fist makes a hole in the Ukrainian defenses, Russian infantry use either motorcycles or light vehicles like buggy. Nowadays, this is the enemy's most common assault tactic, but we should say the enemy uses the meat grinder still. Every single day, the Russian army loses hundreds of people by sending them either on foot or on motorcycles. This is the meat grinder. We have built different obstacles. Physical obstacles help defend us, and it is the work of our engineering support forces who are building trenches and so forth. We use remote mining technologies. We use different types of UAVs. It's FPV drones and bigger drones with wings. And from our side, we always have 2 to 3 tanks that are always ready to start fighting. Zelensky said the counteroffensive to stop the Russian advance to Dobropilya derailed Russia's summer offensive campaign. Here, a failed attack exposed the true state of Russian units, with elite VDV branding not being able to mask inadequate planning and logistics. As Russian paratroopers saw what awaited them with such a plan, many decided just to surrender to avoid a certain death, only to immediately become priority targets for their own drone units that received the command to chase and eliminate all deserters. Russian VDV forces were redeployed to the Zaporizhia front to pin Ukrainian defenses in Zaporizhia as part of a combined operation. The hope was that this would split Ukrainian attention in the south, while another operational grouping would try to outflank Ukraine's defense lines from the east and force penetration into the Dnipropetrovsk region. The Russian push towards Orikhiv consisted of a multi-wave assault against Mala Tokmachka, aiming to punch through and consolidate the area. Geo-located footage shows Russian forces advancing with 26 tanks and infantry fighting vehicles over the course of the day. But despite their efforts, 22 of them were destroyed by the Ukrainians by nightfall. Most of the soldiers were also eliminated, with survivors left abandoned by their own command as a target for the Ukrainian drones clearing the fields. Many Russians joined the VDV forces believing they would be treated as elite warriors, trained, equipped, and celebrated. The reality is far more different from what was portrayed. Paratroopers were thrown into the meat grinder in sequential waves, watching comrades engulfed by explosions as their own turn soon approached. Rather than a coordinated, overwhelming thrust, units were fed into attritional assaults by only several vehicles at a time, with little hope of success and zero plans to evacuate potential survivors. The psychological effect was catastrophic for the VDV recruits, as elite status evaporated into a sense of being expendable. Faced with annihilation, a growing number of Russian soldiers chose surrender over certain death. A video from this direction shows a Russian paratrooper walking out of ruined positions to lay down arms, guided toward Ukrainian rear areas by 2 Ukrainian soldiers who accepted his surrender and took him as a prisoner of war. This possibility gave the Russian soldier a rational survival choice if only he had not been spotted by his own comrades. Soon after, 2 Russian FPV drones attacked the group, shockingly ignoring the Ukrainians but focusing on the Russian soldier who had surrendered, with the only goal to punish their own for choosing to live. This ruthless Russian field response is intended to deter deserters by a brutal order. When Russian reconnaissance identifies their own troops moving to surrender, Russian FPV drones and artillery units are ready to act and strike the surrendering soldiers. Footage from Stepnohirsk shows another VDV soldier holding his arms up in surrender, but then quickly turning around and pleading with the approaching Russian kamikaze drone trying to kill him, to no avail. The two videos filmed and published right after the major Russian assault show that these are not isolated battlefield incidents, but part of a growing set of evidence that such punitive measures have been adopted by the Russian officers to prevent mass capitulation. If the Russian command allows surrenders, discipline will collapse further. Desertion and refusal will spread, leading to uncontrollable manpower losses. To prevent this, the officers try to re-establish deterrence through public and private punishment, but at a steep cost.
Выстрел!